I don't know how many times I've made a video criticizing the media, but I'm in that mood. I'm in the mood to talk about how the media is awful, and I hope you're in that mood too, because we have a story from Investors Business Daily. The press needs more than a Super Bowl ad to fix its plunging credibility. Yes, there's a lot going on behind the scenes in media that people don't seem to realize. It's not, businesses aren't failing just because their content is bad, but it is one of the reasons. Dave Rubin tweeted about how these people need to learn to do journalism, and that's one of the reasons they're failing, and that's fair, but the picture is bigger than that, okay? And we'll talk about why media is failing a bit too. You've probably heard me talk about this stuff, but let's start with this article from Investors Business Daily. Media bias. While journalists are getting pink slips across the country, the Washington Post decided to dump a boatload of cash for a Super Bowl image ad that tried to portray the news media as national heroes. Here's a better and much cheaper idea to restore the industry's shattered reputation. Be less blatantly partisan. Yes. Here's the latest example. Brett Kavanaugh smeared far and wide in the media. Great. You want to claim that this allegation from this woman from 30 years ago is credible? Fine. Okay. When Justin Fairfax, the Democrat from Virginia, is accused from an incident in 2004, don't act like you can't report it. And that's what they did. Is it surprising to anybody, the Democrat, they say, oh, no, we're not going to do that. The Republican, they say, oh, wow, run it far and wide? Unsurprising. In the 60-second ad, Tom Hanks and Stones. Okay, if you don't know about the Super Bowl ad, I'm not going to read through all this portion of it, but basically it's Tom Hanks talking about why media is important, and the Washington Post paid, some people believe, $10 million for this ad. So the journalists are pissed off. Media bias kills trusts. Here we go. The latest IBD TIPP poll makes this abundantly clear. The poll asked several questions to gauge the public's perception of the mainstream news media. What did it find? First, that fully half the country says its trust in the media decreased over the past 2 years. A tiny 8% say it increased. That includes a plurality of independents, 49%. Even among Republicans, who've long grown accustomed to media bias, 81% say their trust in the press has dropped over the past 2 years. Now, you may be saying, Republicans already hated the liberal media. They're probably just claiming their trust has gone down, and how can it go lower than zero? No. Most of the people I know who are critical of the media still recognize that it's not always fake news. Until now. Like my friends who are, more centrist or right-leaning, very critical of the mainstream media, many activists, for instance, still recognized that a lot of it is fine, right? The point is, I'm on Investors Daily. They've got a green check mark from NewsGuard. Now, NewsGuard is getting dragged across the coals. But the point is, just because the site tends to produce good, like it's factual information, doesn't mean it always is. So when people say they're biased or they're lying, they're not saying it's all bad. But today, now it's all bad. You see how that works, but let's read on. Geographically, those in the Midwest and South are most likely to say their trust in the press has declined, 52% and 57% respectively, since Trump took office. Men are far more likely than women, and those with incomes over $75,000 more distrust the media more than lower income houses. These findings alone should be alarming. After all, as any corporate executive knows, you can't run a successful business when a vast and increasing share of your customer base doesn't trust the product you are selling. It gets worse. The poll found that more than 2/3 of the public, 69%, think the news media is more concerned with advancing its points of view rather than reporting all the facts. Bravo. I agree. Absolutely 100%. I worked for a company who told me to do that. Only 29% of the public disagrees with that statement. In other words, nearly 7 out of 10 adults in the country think the Post ad's blather about gathering the facts is bull. Wow. That includes 72% of independents, 95% of Republicans, and surprisingly 43% of Democrats. There's more. 59% say the press covers issues in a way that seeks to delegitimize the views held by President Trump and his supporters. 59%. That's not even Trump's base. That means you're probably getting some Democrats and many independents who are flat out saying they're just trying to rag on Trump. I think I would fall into that category easily. Okay, my politics, I'm for progressive tax. I don't entirely disagree with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on a progressive tax issue, but I think her number is too high. I like Bernie Sanders. Many people then are shocked and they go, Tim's a socialist. I'm not a socialist, but I am further to the left than Trump supporters, for instance. But you know where we agree is the media is chasing the Trump bump. They're putting out fake news, bad information to push their agenda, to lie, to delegitimize the president. I'm not a fan of Trump. I think he deserves credit on some things. I would like to see somebody else in 2020. I doubt it's going to happen. I'm pretty sure Trump's going to win, and that's fine. And the crazy thing about it is, when I talk to conservatives and independents, they're fine with me having that opinion. They tell me I'm wrong. We carry on. It's no big deal. And then we both look at the TV and say, why are they lying about what happened? I can disagree with certain policy issues, but I'm not going to lie about what Trump thinks or what he's saying. You want to talk about the media failing. How about you start with the fact that it's plainly visible to more than half the country that you're just trying to delegitimize the president. And I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea of sabotaging the pilot because you don't like him personally. Talk about how, okay, let's use an analogy. If we're on a plane and a pilot keeps doing barrel rolls and you're like, dude, I do not like this, that's fine. Criticize it, okay? If you think what he's doing is bad, it's important to speak out. But apparently the flight attendants are looking at us going, no, 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 no. What he's actually doing is flying us into a mountain. Is he really flying us into a mountain? Are you going to get us to rip the pilot out of his seat because you don't like him personally? No, 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 no. Let's land the plane, okay? Let's do what America's supposed to do. You know, the Democrats lost. The media, look, I don't necessarily think it's about partisanship. I think it's about making money, but partisanship is a big issue when you recognize, even Pew Research shows that journalists tend to be left-leaning. But the point is, here's my mentality. Do I like Trump? For the most part, no. And that's fine. I disagree with a lot of the policy stuff he does. I like the idea that he's going to pull people out of the Middle East. I like the idea that the economy is doing better. I do believe in a progressive tax. I do think the government can do more in certain areas of education and healthcare. So since Trump took a turn on a lot of the foreign policy stuff, the Warhawk stuff, I've definitely warmed up to him. But I think there's still charisma and leadership issues. But that's fine. You know why? Because I didn't win the election. In fact, I'll say this, I didn't vote because I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. I would just get the exact same thing, right? War hawk nonsense. The point is, I sit back and say, well, this is what people voted for. I recognize that. I'm not going to go around bashing people over the head with chains and bike locks because I'm mad about who they voted for. No, that's just the way it is. I'm an adult and I can recognize we don't always win. And that's fine. We can still be friends. The media, on the other hand, wants money. I think that's the primary driver of this. They recognize that people are upset. They know they can make them angrier. And then when you look at the State of the Union address, what happens? Democrats barely watched it. They were calling for people not to watch it. That is just mind-numbing to me. You have to know what he's saying if you're going to criticize him. I don't know how I got onto a Trump tangent when we're supposed to be talking about the media, but primarily when it comes to the negative attitudes towards Trump, I would say first and foremost, the media is at fault. I sit in front of two screens all day, every day, reading nothing but news. I just inundated with information. And it makes it really easy for me to talk about certain policy issues. I think Trump doing a second Kim Jong-un summit, fantastic idea, brilliant idea. Trump doesn't get my support. Trump's specific actions will either get my support or condemnation. Missile strike in Syria, weapons deal with Saudi Arabia, intervention in Yemen, those are all negatives for me. And those are the things I care about the most. But Trump flipped when he said we're going to withdraw from Syria, and I said, oh, okay. That doesn't absolve him for the things he's done in these other countries, but it is still something I will support him on. That's fair. I don't like his attitude. I don't like the way he talks about other people. I will say the State of the Union address was a huge, huge step up, and I think he's done a lot to even convince centrist independents. I really think he did a fantastic job with the State of the Union. I think there's some things I disagree with, like he was talking about the investigation and things about himself, sure. But back to the main point before I start rambling again, make this video too long. Why do so many people I know hate Trump? It's plain and simple. We're looking at it right here. Let's read the last of this because I'm rambling. More than half, 53%, say they agree with the media. They agree the media prematurely declared President Trump guilty of collusion with Russia without sufficient evidence. People understand this, okay? We're not in a point anywhere people are blind to this. Most independents agree, 55%. More than 1 in 5 Democrats believe they've prematurely smeared Trump with collusion. Is anyone in the mainstream press paying attention? Apparently not, since they seem to think that the only problem they have is too few image ads. Yeah. So here's a question for the folks at the Washington Post. How does knowing help us decide when the press clearly isn't helping the public know, but is instead trying to force decisions by spinning stories, massaging facts, and pushing an agenda? The Post would have done journalists to say nothing of the public at large, a real service, if instead of blowing millions of dollars on a Super Bowl ad, they had put that money into dealing with media bias. They could start by teaching journalists not to be propagandists for the far left wing of the Democratic Party. Let's reel that in a little bit. I don't think it's fair to say of the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, that they're propagandists for the far left wing of the Democratic Party. I do think it's fair to say that they are themselves left wing and can't see outside of their bubbles, and they view Republicans as an other. One of the reasons I've been able to have a fine go at understanding why didn't I jump the gun in Covington? Because I don't view those kids or the Native American as others. I view them as two people who are doing a thing. And I don't know what the thing there is. I don't know what it is they're doing. I better find out. But the left saw those kids, the other. They got mad. And that was it. A lot of people on the right got mad at the Native American saying he got in the kid's face. That's true. But I don't want to view anybody as an other. Even the Black Hebrew Israelites, who I think are just god-awful, I don't look at them like others. I look at them like people who are saying things because people say things. There's one thing I always say when I see stories like this. People do people stuff. And what that means to me is that you can expect humans to behave, for the most part, the same. You can expect them to be tribal, to be partisan, and you can expect the people working in media not to be able to empathize with those they view as an enemy of themselves. When they see stories about Orange Man bad, when they only follow each other on Twitter, they're eating their own refuse. They eat the garbage they spew out, and it makes them crazy. I don't want to get too angry. I don't want to ramble too much. So I'm gonna wrap it up for here. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. I'll have more videos on this channel at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 6, and on the main channel, youtube.com/timcast at 4 p.m. Final shout out for those that have made it this far. Minds.com, minds.com/timcast. We're setting up a community newsroom. We need you involved. I'll see you guys next time.